Now, in this week's Let's Talk Some Star Wars video, I want to discuss the results of a poll, as well as talk about a video I did regarding the idea that a live-action version of Ahsoka Tano should be featured in an anthology-style movie set between episodes 6 and 7 that also included Luke Skywalker. And as you can see by the results here, this is an idea a lot of people were in favor of, with 15% saying it'd be the absolute best idea ever, and another 42% saying it'd be a great idea that they'd be very excited for, with only 17% of voters not too keen on the idea at all. But the thing is, if you start to delve into the comments, you begin to realize these numbers might be a bit skewed or inaccurate, that maybe people voted against the idea despite actually being in favor of it. And though our top rated comment on the poll, that came to us from Eugene Solario, voted for the idea, he expressed his concerns by saying that he thought Disney would mess it up somehow. And he certainly wasn't alone in feeling this way, because many people apparently voted against the idea, not because they didn't like it, but out of fear that Disney and Lucasfilm wouldn't get it right. In fact, the top-rated comment on the video associated with this poll that came to us from Earl McCutcheon pretty much expressed the exact same concerns by pondering what if Ahsoka was treated the same way as Luke was in The Last Jedi, and the version we got of her wasn't the one we were hoping for. Anyway, though it's hard to know just how many voted against it despite actually being in favor of the idea, and if it would even be a sizable enough percentage to influence the results to any great degree, these comments seem to epitomize the sad state of affairs between Lucasfilm and some of its fans, because I think it's safe to say that within the core fandom at least, Ahsoka is one of the most beloved characters in all of Star Wars, yet we have people who don't want to see a movie of her because they don't trust how she might be handled. And though, now moving on to another comment from the video, I don't completely share Sinister Voice's total lack of faith in Disney's ability to maybe turn it around still, he nevertheless very much encapsulates the frustration many fans feel with the franchise right now, that there seems to be very little care taken when telling these new stories, and how they might impact the old ones. And though I certainly understand you have to try to keep things fresh and new, and constantly introduce new characters that can carry the franchise forward, the treatment of the old characters has been utterly head-scratching to me. As I've said before, the character of Luke Skywalker was a golden ticket, an almost guaranteed way to make this new trilogy successful if he was handled even remotely competently. And yet, of all the things to take a gamble on in this trilogy, of all the twists or surprises or subversions of expectations, they picked him to do something completely unexpected with. And though I wish I could say that it was a gutsy move on their part and that I even respected Rian Johnson for doing it and Disney and Lucasfilm for allowing him to do it, I can only shake my head and wonder not only how you take such a risk with maybe the first or second biggest name in your entire franchise, with maybe Darth Vader being the one I'd put ahead of him, but why you take the chance of irreparably damaging the potential to do more with this character in the future. And look, I certainly do get that there are those who like what was done with Luke in The Last Jedi, and that's fine. I'm not here to tell you you're wrong for liking a movie when enjoyment of something is completely subjective. However, objectively looking at it from the standpoint of Disney and Lucasfilm, who at the end of the day should care about money and the longevity of the franchise, I don't know why you risk turning people off from one of their favorite characters. A character you could, again, looking at it from their perspective, continue to milk over and over again if you just made him into what most people wanted and expected him to be. And no, that wasn't meant to be a pun of any kind. And one would have to imagine that, unless the higher-ups at Lucasfilm truly don't get this franchise or don't care about or understand the fans, somebody at Lucasfilm had to realize and see in advance the controversy this movie would almost certainly cause within the fanbase, that many were not going to like what they did with Luke at all. And this isn't a question of artistic freedom, like so many people try to turn it into. It's a question about the profitability of a character, which they just destroyed in regards to Luke. Which brings us to a comment from Michael Rodriguez, which I encourage you to pause and read since I'm only going to paraphrase. And what he's basically saying here is that by using Luke again, and in a movie with Ahsoka, they're only going to reopen the wound caused by The Last Jedi, and promptly rub salt in it. Even if the idea is well-meaning or intended to honor the character as we once knew him, it's still going to be taken the wrong way by many fans. And it's crazy to think how fans of Luke Skywalker waited patiently to see him again on screen, and in some cases waited 35 years, and were so excited about the potential of this sequel trilogy with him in it, and yet now they dread the thought of having to see him again because it might further tarnish his legacy. Again, Lucasfilm took a chance with their most profitable character and lost, and that, like it or not, was an objectively risky gamble that completely backfired, one they had to realize in advance might happen, right? But then again, maybe not, because on my Discord server the other night, we were discussing why Rian Johnson was given a whole new trilogy before The Last Jedi ever even came out, and the only answer that really made sense to us is that They were 100% certain they'd struck gold with The Last Jedi, that it would be the next Empire Strikes Back, if you will, or a Star Wars movie that is almost universally loved by fans. They almost certainly didn't see the controversy coming, which seems almost unbelievable, or if they did see it coming, they either didn't think it would be that bad, or they just didn't care. And no matter what the answer truly is, it's disturbing to know they could either be so wrong or so careless. And I again want to reiterate that I'm not saying that you personally shouldn't or can't like The Last Jedi and the way Luke was handled in it. I'm saying it was an odd decision to make with a franchise that has plans of carrying on indefinitely and that spans to multiple different mediums. Because the name Luke Skywalker should be capable of selling just about anything to a Star Wars fan, any book, game, movie, comic, or what have you. But in the wake of The Last Jedi, anytime they use him, it's not only going to be met with skepticism by some, but as Michael points out in his comment, it risks opening up an old wound. And all this is summed up nearly perfectly by a comment from Alan Caldwell, who said that there are so many great stories that they could have told with Luke if Rian Johnson hadn't done what he did with the character and made so many fans just not care about these stories anymore. And now not only is the idea of an Ahsoka movie, another fan favorite, being met with the same type of skepticism in regards to Disney and Lucasfilm's ability to get the character right, but the movie Solo, based on yet another fan favorite, was a financial failure, despite, in my opinion at least, being a pretty good movie and a rather faithful representation of what a young Han Solo might have been like. And if they don't think at least part of the failure of that movie was caused by the way Luke was treated in The Last Jedi, not to mention the way Han himself was treated in The Force Awakens, as his character was completely regressed back to basically the same state we first found him in A New Hope, then they truly are clueless. But perhaps there is at least one among them who could almost certainly get an Ahsoka movie right, and also find a way to honor the character of Luke Skywalker in it. And that person is, of course, Dave Filoni. And though I didn't mention his name in the poll, like I should have, I did mention him in the initial video because I think he should absolutely be put in charge of such a project, assuming it ever does happen. In fact, with him directing the first episode of The Mandalorian, as well as being an executive producer on the show, I think he's clearly being transitioned away from animation to live action. And honestly, with Ahsoka confirmed to be alive in the time period of the original trilogy, or after it, thanks to the last episode of Rebels, it is only a matter of time before these two characters, Luke and Ahsoka, meet some way, somehow, somewhere in a story. And if Lucasfilm is smart, and yes, I've been calling that into question quite a bit here, Dave Filoni should be the one who handles that first meeting. And not only that, but it deserves to be done upon a big stage, if you will, because many fans are going to be excited to see it, even those who might otherwise say they don't give a damn about Star Wars anymore. And as many suggested in the comments, if we don't see it in a live-action movie, then perhaps it should be in an animated one that airs on the Disney streaming service. And this could then be Dave Filoni's last hurrah, if you will, in the world of Star Wars animation, or a going away present for him and us as he moves strictly to live action, and maybe even the presidency of Lucasfilm. In closing here, I'm of the mindset that Star Wars could still be saved for those fans who have all but walked away already, or have been completely turned off by what they see as one bad decision after another by Lucasfilm and Disney. And I truly think 3 years from now, when her contract is up, Kathleen Kennedy will ride off into the sunset, happy with herself that, in her mind at least, she's made whatever point she wanted to make with this franchise. And I wouldn't be shocked, despite his lack of experience, if Dave Filoni does indeed take her place. And that these next 3 years will be all about grooming him for the position. And if he then fails, well then maybe I too would be ready to throw in the towel at that point. But quite honestly, I don't think he would fail. And not only do I think he's the perfect fit for the job, he might be the only fit at this point. As I've said many times before, he was basically a Padawan to George Lucas while working on the Clone Wars animated series, and likely understands Lucas's concepts of Star Wars better than anyone else there's ever been or ever will be, considering again how closely he worked with him. And just having a president of Lucasfilm that fans feel they can rally behind is a good first step. And if he then delivers, which I think he would, then maybe Star Wars can recover from this little hiccup, shall we say. And fans wouldn't dread the idea of a movie about Luke meeting Ahsoka, but they'd instead embrace it because they know it'll be handled with the love and care it deserves, as will the entire franchise again. Well, that's all I've got for this time. Now it's your turn to either give me your thoughts on this video or weigh in on next week's topic, which will be, who does Star Wars belong to? Disney, George Lucas, the fans, all of the above, or someone else or something else entirely? So leave the comments below and let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.